December 13th, 2000. The day began like any other at the John B. Connally Unit prison near the city of Kennedy, Texas, United States. Looking at the massive prison's towering concrete walls, barbed wire fences, and heavily armed guards, no one could have imagined that it was about to become the birthplace of one of the boldest prison escapes in American history. 7 convicted inmates had been secretly developing a plan for a long time. Each of them was an experienced criminal. Some were robbers, some were murderers, and some were armed attackers. One of them was George Rivas. This calm and quiet man was the mastermind behind the entire operation. Although he appeared to be an ordinary inmate on the outside, inside the prison, he was known as an extremely patient and calculating leader.
Day after day, they carefully observed the prison's security system. They memorized which guard came at what time, when each door was opened, and where the surveillance cameras had blind spots. Their plan was so precise that even the smallest mistake could have cost them their lives. Even so, they were ready to take the risk. Around noon that day, several inmates were taken outside to perform prison maintenance work. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for. One by one, they quietly overpowered several correctional officers. Some had their hands and feet tied, while others had their mouths sealed with tape. The escapees then made their way to the prison armory, where they seized firearms, ammunition, bulletproof vests, and police uniforms. The entire operation happened so quickly that before the other guards realized what was happening, it was already over. The 7 inmates climbed into a government pickup truck and drove straight through the prison's main gate. The security personnel standing outside assumed they were leaving on official business. By the time the truth was discovered a few minutes later, they were already far away. An emergency alert was immediately issued across Texas. Their photographs were broadcast on radio and television and published in newspapers throughout the state. Law enforcement quickly realized that these were not ordinary criminals. They were armed, organized, and willing to do whatever it took to survive. After escaping from prison, they quickly changed their appearances. Some cut their hair, some shaved their beards, and others created fake identification documents. They traveled through different cities, using stolen vehicles to stay ahead of the police. During the first few days, they committed small robberies to raise money, but their confidence soon grew. They decided to carry out a much larger robbery. Meanwhile, Christmas was approaching. Shopping malls were crowded with customers, and stores were holding much larger amounts of cash than usual. The 7-man group selected a sporting goods store as their target. Wearing police uniforms, they entered the store. At first, the employees believed they were real officers. But within seconds, the men pulled out their guns and ordered everyone to lie on the floor. Terrified, no one dared to move. The group quickly stole cash, firearms, and other valuable items before leaving the store. However, an unexpected event occurred during the robbery. A police officer patrolling nearby realized something was wrong and rushed to the scene. He was determined to protect the unarmed civilians. But he stood alone against 7 heavily armed criminals. Within moments, the sound of gunfire echoed throughout the area. The brave officer was killed at the scene. The fugitives then fled the area as quickly as possible. The murder shocked the entire United States. It was no longer just a prison escape. It had become a major national security crisis. The FBI, the Texas Rangers, local police departments, and various federal agencies launched a massive joint manhunt. Millions of dollars in reward money were offered for information leading to the capture of the 7 fugitives. People from across the country began calling in with possible leads. But each time, law enforcement found themselves only minutes or hours too late. The fugitives continued moving from one city to another,
They knew that remaining together made them easier to find. Even so, they refused to split up because they believed none of them would survive for long alone.
As the cold winter nights grew longer, the police dragnet slowly tightened. Yet the group of 7 remained free. No one knew how much longer their life on the run would last, or what fate ultimately awaited them.
Several weeks had passed since the prison escape. The photographs of the 7 fugitives had spread across the entire United States. Every television news broadcast displayed their faces. Newspapers printed bold headlines reading, "Texas 7 still on the run." The public was warned to remain alert.
Anyone who recognized them was instructed not to confront them, but to contact the police immediately. Everyone knew that the 7 men were armed and more willing to open fire than to surrender. Meanwhile, the fugitives realized that traveling from city to city was no longer safe. They decided to leave Texas and move to another state. Using fake identification documents, they slowly crossed state lines. Sometimes they spent the night in motels, while at other times they hid in rented houses. Whenever they went outside, they dressed like ordinary people, wearing hats and sunglasses. They did everything possible to avoid being recognized. But no matter how careful they were, the investigation never stopped. The FBI examined hundreds of leads. Thousands of phone calls came in every day. Many tips proved to be false, but some gradually guided investigators in the right direction. Several eyewitnesses reported seeing all 7 men together. Although investigators could not immediately confirm the reports, they became convinced that the group had not yet split up. The fugitives also needed money. Much of what they had stolen had already been spent. As a result, they became extremely cautious with their spending. At the beginning of the new year, they eventually arrived in a small town in the state of Colorado. It was a quiet town, known for attracting tourists. They began living in an RV park under false identities, introducing themselves to the local residents as ordinary travelers. They spent most of their time indoors and only went outside at night when absolutely necessary. But their biggest mistake was believing they could fool everyone. A local resident noticed that their faces closely resembled the fugitives shown on television. Rather than taking any risks, he secretly contacted the police. Within a few days, the FBI confirmed that they had found none other than the 7 escaped prisoners. The entire area was immediately surrounded.
Before launching the operation, police used loudspeakers to order the fugitives to surrender. Several minutes of silence followed. Then, word came that George Rivas and 5 others surrendered peacefully, while the 7th man refused and was later found dead after taking his own life. After nearly 6 weeks, one of the largest fugitive manhunts in U.S. history came to an end. 6 fugitives were captured alive. 1 died, and the surviving members were later convicted of multiple serious crimes, with several receiving the death penalty and others sentenced to lengthy prison terms. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more amazing true stories.